So welcome everyone. Thanks for being here today. If you guys don't know me yet, I'm Fernando. I'm the Marketing and Communications Director for the System Dynamics Society. And today we're here to learn a little bit more on how to publish in the System Dynamics Review. If you're working on something, research paper or a practical work, you can publish in this amazing journal of the society. We have Andreas Größler. I'm going to introduce him for you in a few seconds. But first of all, I want to remind people of the benefits of being a member of the System Dynamics Society. If you're not a member yet, or maybe just to refresh your memory about these benefits. You get free access to all society seminar series and also all the recordings from previous seminars that we had from the past year and a half. You get a great discount on our 2022 conference coming up in July, and I'm going to talk about this very soon. You get full access to the scientific journal, the System Dynamics Review. You get exclusive prices on your bookshop. Also access to the mentorship program. So if you're planning to learn more system dynamics modeling, it's a great way to get those skills by being a member of the society, and also discount on our partners' online courses. Let's talk a little bit about the conference. It's coming up. There's a little bit of some doubts out there about the conference. And this year we're going hybrid. It's the first time ever we're going hybrid. So meaning that we're having a program in Frankfurt in person and also online. So you can decide if you want to join in person or virtually. You can also present virtually or in person. Let's talk about this a little bit. We have some early birds, member discounts, and scholarships available. So just watch out until June 9, we have this early bird process. You can take a look at the pricing at systemdynamics.org/conference. And if you haven't decided yet, if you want to go to Frankfurt or you're attending online, you can switch to a virtual ticket without any penalty by May 24th. And you can also upgrade to a Frankfurt ticket at any time. So we have some flexibility here that you can, this helps you decide what you want to do. And of course, if you're joining us today here for this specific seminar, it's because you're probably working on something to publish soon. And if you're publishing soon, why not submit your work for the conference this year? So the deadline is approaching very fast. It's next Friday, the deadline to submit your work. And you can submit your research paper, your practitioner application with just a few slides. You can submit also your work in progress. If you have an idea for a workshop you want to do at the conference, and also other types of submissions, such as the roundtable or model expo you want to do. So don't miss out this deadline. You can send it until March 18th next, not this Friday, the next one. And I also want to remind about the System Dynamics Summer School that we have 2 tracks, the intro and the intermediate. You can, of course, learn from the best instructors in the field in the summer school. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the summer school, you can go to systemdynamics.org/summer school. Monique or Raquel, if you could maybe send the conference link and also the summer school link in the chat, that would be amazing for me. And also another reminder here, there's an upcoming free seminar on March 23rd with Kenneth Cooper, and he's going to talk about the dark side of projects and delays, disruption, and disputes, and how to use system dynamics model to resolve these high stakes legal cases. So great opportunity, don't miss this. And just a shout out to all society sponsors. Of course, it's only through their help that we are continuing this expansion of the system dynamics field. And if you'd like to sponsor the society, we can start a conversation via email. You can send that to office@systemdynamics.org and talk to me and Rebecca. So let's go to our platform. If you're not used to poll everywhere, there's a link in the chat, or you can scan this QR code here on your screen. We're going to use this for the important part of the seminar, which is the Q&A. You can send your questions here. So I'm going to give you a minute or so to go here, to go to the chat, find the link, or you can type on your browser pollf.com/sts-post877, or also just scan the QR code here, giving you 10 seconds. Maybe scan the QR code, find the best path for you. And the very first question I have for you, it's where are you joining us from? I'm gonna wait a little bit to get some responses. We have about 125 people today already here in the room. So we have people from Canada, Germany, Bergen, Norway, Cleveland, in the US, Mumbai in India, Taiwan, Florida, Edinburgh. There's a lot of people from everywhere. We usually cover a lot of time zones, and today is really no different. Buenos Aires, I saw that, Ohio, Italy, Saudi Arabia, Spain. You know, this beauty of the System Dynamics Society is our diversity. So I'm really happy to be part of this community. So I see you guys got the idea. We're going to continue. I'm going to make live the Q&A very soon, so you can send your questions to Andreas throughout his presentation, okay? Moving on to the next slide. Manually do this. So a quick agenda for today. Andreas is going to give us some SDR insights and key information, and he's going to give us a review and a publishing guide. This shouldn't take more than 30 minutes, he told me, so we have plenty of time for Q&A, so prepare your questions and pay attention to his presentation so you can ask a few questions. So I'm happy to introduce to you Andreas Größler. He's in Germany. He's a professor at the University of Stuttgart, and he's also the System Dynamics Review Executive Editor. Thank you so much for having me here today, and thank you so much for joining us, Andreas. That's all from my side. I took you 6 minutes, so you can share your screen and present. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Fernando, for the very nice introduction. Let me just try to share my screen now, as you just said. Let's see. So I hope you can see that. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Andreas, can I just ask you one thing? Can you put your mic a little bit further away from your mouth?
Is it too loud? Okay, right.
Yes, just a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Now it's
right.
better.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. So what I'm going to do in the next few minutes is basically just talk a little bit about System Dynamics Review, what it is, how it works, how publishing and in scientific journals works in general. So for those of you who are seasoned practitioners of system dynamics, that's nothing new, but I bet there are also some people who've never done this before. So I also want to encourage you and give you some information, how what you need to do and what you need to, what you can expect from that. And I want to end with some kind of, Fernando called it a guide. I would just say a few tips if you want to submit and publish with System Dynamics Review. What should you pay attention to? This basically what I want to cover in my very brief talk, and then, as Fernando already pointed out, I'm happy to get your comments or questions afterwards. Okay. Let me start by saying that System Dynamics Review is the journal of the System Dynamics Society. And since Fernando just mentioned the benefits that members receive when they join the society, let me also add that full access to System Dynamics Review is one of the benefits, which wasn't on Fernando's list. And also you can get a discount on open access publishing in SDR if you are a member of System Dynamics of the System Dynamics Society. But being the journal of the society also means, in the end, the society is responsible for what is in that thing in the review. And then the second point here is basically a really kind of high up the ground summary of what SDR does, or what the goals of SDR are. We want to publish high quality peer-reviewed advances in system thinking and system dynamics and their applications to societal, technical, managerial, and environmental problems. And I will get back to some of these points later, but let me already now point out a few things that are in that maybe a little bit complicated sentence, but probably it's not even a sentence. First of all, high quality. So yes, there are certain standards which unfortunately are not absolute. So it's relative to, you know, to the current state of knowledge, to what type of paper you want to publish, to the current debate in system dynamics, and so on and so forth. I will get back to this later on. But definitely we have the intention to publish high quality pieces. It's peer reviewed, and what it means in particular I will cover in a minute. But for now, let's just understand that it's not just you telling the world something. It's also the world somehow needs to be able to deal with what you are going to tell them. And then it says system thinking and system dynamics, and this could be translated into it can be qualitative and or quantitative work. Well, and then it says something about applications. Yes, we do cover a lot of different areas where system dynamics is applied to, and some of them are mentioned there, but basically I don't think even that's all. We also have papers from engineering and from other sciences. Okay. Currently, SDR, System Dynamics Review, is published by Wiley, so one of the big scientific publishers. That might change in the future or not. I don't know. And so it's one of the major decisions that the society has to make every now and then if they want to continue and with which publisher. We are a member of COPE, so the Committee on Publication Ethics. So very important for me to emphasize that we have codes of conduct, of inclusivity and non-discriminatory behavior. System Dynamics Review is, well, you could say old or not, depending on how old probably you are or not. But we are now in the 38th year of existence. So 38 years ago, some people in the field had the idea to establish a journal. And actually, there was even a predecessor before, but let's not get into history too much. But anyway, so there is some history, and I will get back to this point, one of the very last tips that I have for you later on of how to publish in SDR. And last point here on this slide, yes, there is the possibility to publish open access. That's still not the usual way. The usual way would be you basically, you know, give away your copyrights to Wiley, and you don't have to pay anything. But if you want to make, and then readers need to pay for when they want to read your article, or become a member of System Dynamics Society, and then you can read them anyways for free. But it's also possible to publish your articles open access so that everybody can read it for free. And normally you would then, as an author, need to pay for that, or your institution. And as I said, if you don't have an institution that pays for that, as a member of the society, you could get some discount on that thing. Okay, let me just move on here. I promised 30 minutes, so let's not spend too much time. So what are some key figures? And I think let's really start with you. So the potential or real authors and readers. So you are the most important people for System Dynamics Review. And then we have reviewers doing this peer review thing that I will say something more about in a minute. And then we have on the society side a vice president for publications, which is Chris Dave at the moment, and there is a publication committee giving guidance to not only System Dynamics Review, but particularly to System Dynamics Review. And then there are 23 associate editors, and then there are 6 managing editors, and I listed their names there. And if you are there, welcome. forgive me for not mentioning you all by name. It's fantastic work that you do. And then that's basically me and Yaman, who's the co-editor of System Dynamics Review. And let me just say there will be a change with the co-editor soon, but since it hasn't been officially announced on the society's website, let's also not announce it here, but there will be a change. So Yaman, who was running the journal for really many years successfully, will step back a little bit and become an associate editor. And we'll have a new co-editor soon for SDR. And let me also just say, for those of you who are not so into the business of publishing and journals, that obviously these groups overlap. So many of us are authors and readers and reviewers, and some are also editors. So you can actually play many roles here when it comes to the journal. So here's my basically overview about how submitting a paper to SDR works and hopefully finally getting it published. And as I said, for those of you who are in the business of doing this, and those of you who do this, regularly, there's nothing new. But I still think there are some people who are not so sure how this works. So let me just give you a quick overview here. So up there on top, authors submit a paper, or I say resubmit, because sometimes you have to do it not only once, but let's assume you think you have written a nice paper and the world should know about it, and in particular the system dynamics world should know about it. Then you can submit it to System Dynamics Review for being published. And then there are certain kind of steps that are followed. So it's kind of a process, and actually this process is more difficult than I depicted it here, but I had already problems getting this in some meaningful way on a slide here. So let's not be overly critical. These are just the major steps. So the first thing when you decide to submit a paper is I get it, and I need to have a look at it and do some really basic checks first. And that includes some rather technical stuff. So for example, have you uploaded all necessary files? Is there no plagiarism involved? I assume it's not, but sometimes it is. So I need to check this. Is it really in line with what we want to publish in System Dynamics Review? And I will get back to this point on my tips slide, but always keep in mind System Dynamics Review. So it should be about system dynamics in some way. And this might seem a really stupid remark, but I get really fascinating papers which have nothing to do about system dynamics. So if you want to publish something in System Dynamics Review, it should have, it should be about system dynamics. So I'm doing these things, and then many things can happen. So one is and that's the arrow going to the right, the infamous desk rejection. And I know that authors hate this, and I totally understand this because it also happens to me being author in other journals. And this is basically saying that the executive editor says, you know what, it might be interesting, but it's not for our journal. Okay, so these things happen. Or I might say, yeah, it is interesting for you, but actually we, if you are longer in the field, we knew all about this already. Okay, so these things happen. Or I might say, all this might be interesting, but honestly, I don't understand what you want to say. So these are kind of reasons why a desk rejection might happen. And this basically means we tell the author, sorry, this version of the paper cannot be published. And I always try to be constructive in that, telling you, okay, what you would need to change to try again. Okay. Another outcome of this first evaluation by me could be, what I call here special major revision. So sometimes I see, yet this paper could eventually be published, but it definitely has some shortcomings that I don't want it to go to reviewers at that point. I want authors to change something right from the start. And then it goes back to you and you do the changes and then you resubmit. Okay. And the third option, and this is the arrow going down here, is I pass it on to a managing editor. And these are the guys doing the real work, you know, those 6 guys that are listed on the first slide, on the second slide, sorry. And they are actually from then on more or less managing, as the name implies, what's happening to such a submission. So again, what could happen? And again, it's basically 3 outcomes. Sometimes they say, you know what, there are some minor things you should change right away. And this is the arrow going up here, and then it goes back to the authors, and maybe they resubmit. Hopefully they resubmit again. They might also say, okay, this is perfect. Okay, we accept this paper will be published finally. And by finally, I mean, usually you would not accept this to be accepted in the first go, in the first round. Very often you will get it back for revising. And the best that could happen then is the managing editor basically saying, let's send it out to reviewers. And these are we talked about this word, the anonymous peer reviewers. So they don't know who you are and you don't know who they are. And so the idea is they judge the quality of the paper without knowing from whom it comes. Okay, so that's the idea of peer review here. And again, what could happen when a paper is with reviewers? They could decide on, you do a revision, you know, and then it goes up again to you and you change something. Or they say, you know what, it's actually not that good, or actually not that fitting, or whatever. And then it's rejected. And this is of course troublesome. And again, I really personally understand this very well because my papers got rejected very often and quite a lot. And it's even more frustrating if this happens after a few rounds of revision. So you got it back and you changed something and then you thought, oh, now it's really what they want. But unfortunately, they reached a decision. No. And this happens, okay? And usually there are good reasons for that. And I would say there are always good reasons for that. But it's somehow, of course, a judgment call. And if a paper is rejected at one journal, it doesn't mean it cannot be published in another one. So rejection is not so much about absolute quality again, it's also about fitting into the scope of a journal. So I hope you have a kind of basic understanding how this process works. It's over various steps with various people involved, trying to make this as good as or as objective system as possible, in particular by including anonymous reviewers. And obviously, the editors are always there to help, even if sometimes they have to deliver the bad message that your paper has been rejected. So that means you will always get some, hopefully, constructive criticism back, some constructive feedback of what you could do to improve your paper. And even if we reject it, as I said, we would tell you why this is and what you might change and submit it again with SDR or with another journal. Okay, so that's the basic process that we are following there. I'm not sure. I skipped 2 slides. So we have different types of papers that we accept and that we publish. So the last 2 here are not so important for our discussion, because usually these are more invited or very short pieces that are people not so interested in. But I think the first 2 are important to understand. The most important category is the first one, main articles. This is what at least researchers are always looking for. You know, this is what they want to publish. Okay, this is the original research. It's always double-blind, peer-reviewed. Okay, so this is exactly the process I just described. We now have an option for fast track. And this sounds attractive to authors, obviously. Fast sounds good. I will say something about the timing or the delays in one of the next slides. But it's also very risky, because it on the one hand side it says, yes, we will try to hurry as much as we can with that paper. But the downside is, you know, if there will be no chance for a major revision. Okay, either the paper is already that good that with a few small changes it can be accepted, or it will be rejected. So as an author, be careful what you choose. It's okay if you choose fast track, but be aware, if you choose fast track and it's not already very good, or we think it's not already very good, it will be rejected. There's no way of, you know, gradually refining it. And then the second important category here are what we call notes and insights papers. They are shorter, but this is not the main characteristic. The important thing is that these papers are more descriptive, in a sense of, you know, you just describe of what has happened, what you've done, how it has helped people, or something like this. And these papers are not always double-blind peer-reviewed. Sometimes we only do an editorial review, and usually the cycle, the publication cycle is faster here with these papers. And then we have announcement and reviews, but let's not go into these, because they are for most people they are not so relevant really. Some figures about system dynamics review, impact factor 2020. So we don't have the one from last year, from previous year. 2.0 something, so just above 2. And if you don't know what an impact factor is, don't worry, and it doesn't matter. You know, for those academics among you who know what it is, this is the impact factor. We receive roughly 100 submissions, new submissions per year. And I really would like to increase that. I think we as editors have some capacity to cater for a few more. We usually publish, but this is really like the traditional way, 4 issues per year. So this is when this thing is also printed. So I think there are 200 some people in the world that still get a printed copy of System Dynamics Review, but most of you obviously access it electronically. And also these papers, you know, all papers are put into issues, but as soon as the paper is accepted, it will be put on the journal's website and is available electronically. And so, for example, last year we had 21 pieces, including everything published. We sometimes have special issues. So the last one that was published in 2020 is the biomedical modeling issue, and we'll probably have a new one in 2022 about qualitative aspects of system dynamics, where you still can submit papers to, but actually there was already some pre-review with the special issue editors. Anyways, probably you can still submit papers for this special issue if you really feel that would make a contribution to this special issue. But you can submit papers anyways to just a normal issue, of course, as well. Here are some performance figures for us, for the editorial team. So on average, after 19 days, you receive a first decision on your submission. Okay, you hear something about what happened to the paper that you submitted. The average review turnaround time is roughly 1 month. So that means roughly after 1 month, when the paper is in review, you will get a result. And again, these are average times. So average delay times, you could say. And as we all know, there's a distribution around that average. Okay. And unfortunately, it is a little bit of a not so nice distribution around it, because this curve around this average is left skewed, as you could say. So that means that for many papers, actually, we are faster than the times given there. Unfortunately, this means these are usually the papers which are rejected. Okay, and you could see that from a positive side and say, at least I know fast if my paper will not be published. But it also means that actually we do have many papers that were submitted, and I'm pretty sure authors, had, thought they submitted something substantial and useful, but we had to reject it. And this is basically the last figure here on that slide, which basically says that only a little bit more than 1/5 of all papers finally get published. And this might be shocking news to some of you. And be very blunt, I don't think this is a good figure. We should really increase that. Okay. But the thing is, I was talking about quality before, and I was talking about fitting the scope of the journal and the aims of the journal, all of which, by the way, you can read on the journal website if you Google for it, and also on the society website that talks about the journal. So unfortunately, as I just said, quite some papers are eventually rejected, or authors don't follow up on the revisions. So meaning they got tasks for a revision, but they thought, okay, this is too much. We cannot, or we don't want to do it. Okay. So and my goal as an executive editor is to increase that ratio. Okay, I want more papers, and I want more papers to be published without compromising quality. And the seminar today, my intention is to prepare you better for your submission, and to, on the one hand side, encourage you to submit, but also to basically tell you things, to not make easy mistakes, so to say. Okay, because there are some easy mistakes that I see over and over again. And well, on the one hand side, I wonder if people haven't read the website, but I think maybe the website language might be also too difficult, or too I don't know. So let me try to explain it, and let me try to explain it in a way that you can take away some tips here. Okay, if you want to submit something to System Dynamics Review, what should you do? What shouldn't you do? Okay. And the first thing here is be relevant to the System Dynamics community. So that means you need to relate to System Dynamics, to its principles, to debates we have in the field, but also to things that have been published before in the field, or with whatever, everywhere, anywhere. Whenever our System Dynamics has been used for a certain topic, and you are also going to write about a certain topic, you should quote and make a reference to these papers and studies. What you don't need to do, and I see this very often for when people submit, is you don't need to convince me or the readers of SDR that system dynamics is something good. Okay, you don't need to write pages about what is system dynamics and why it is useful. I mean, obviously, system dynamics is not useful for everything, but for the things that we usually get, it is. So there's no need for extensive passages about how great system dynamics is and how it changed your life. Sorry, I'm getting a bit cynical here, but I'm really getting a lot of papers that waste a lot of pages for that and miss on more important other stuff. Okay, then you should clearly use some elements of system dynamics, of the system dynamics method, and I list a few here, or discuss system dynamics from a methodological perspective. So that means, okay, very often it means you need to have a model or at least a diagram, and you need formulations for equations. You need to say something about the validity of your model. You need to say something about how it works with uncertainty. You should present some. Usually, you should present some behavior over time diagrams, or you should provide an interpretation of your simulation results. I mean, all this sounds pretty straightforward when I tell you now, but this is really something I'm seeing over and over again, that people, for example, put a lot of graphs that Vensim or any other simulation software has produced and just put them there and just say, this is it, good luck. And no, it needs some interpretation. You need to tell us what's there and why it is interesting and what we can learn from it. Okay, so don't just put graphs and diagrams there without explaining what they show and why this is interesting. For model papers, by the way, we need full documentation of the model. So there is a tool that works with, at least with Vensim models, SDMdoc, and it's also accessible via the society website and the journal's website. And that produces a lot of tests and documents basically your model, and it provides warnings if you miss out on something. Next point, it needs to be well written, and obviously this is again something very stupid to say. So submitting a paper to a journal is not the same as putting a message on LinkedIn or tweeting something. With these things, if there is a typo, nobody cares. Well, if there's one typo in your paper, I also don't care. But if it's full of typos, I do care. If all the figures are blurred and I can hardly read them, I do care, and it's not good. If the language is in a way that I can't understand what you want to say, it is a problem. If you don't make a connection to the extant literature, it might be a problem. If you don't connect to other articles, it might be a problem. If you have no references to other articles at all, it is a problem. So unfortunately, and we are actually flexible, in particular when it comes to original, so the first submission, but still you need to proofread it. You need to give it to somebody who is somehow capable of proofreading an English paper. You need to get aware somehow of how referencing works. Okay, these things just need to be done. And again, there are other forms of communication that don't need that, but with a paper and SDR, this would be a requirement. And you don't need to be overly concerned about that, but just, give it some thought and put some effort into that. Fourth point here, offer a unique and relevant contribution. And this obviously relates back to the quality thing that I mentioned. And let me just point out, this is, of course, somehow relative to the paper type. So I try to make this difference between main articles and notes and insights papers. And it's also relative to the size, okay? So if you have a really short paper, we might publish it, even though if it's not, reinventing the world. I guess you know what I mean. If the contribution is small, but if the paper also is short, why not? That can be published. If you opt for using all the 10,000 words or even more, then of course we are stricter. We want to see more coming out of that. We want to have a clearer idea why this is really a paper that the world needs to know about. So there's some, it's a bit relative. It's no absolute thing that I can tell you that guarantees your paper will be published. It depends on quite a few things. So on the type of the paper, on the size, on your skills of, locating it, so to say, relative to other literature, and so on and so forth, on clearly communicating what your purpose is, on your technical skills in modeling and simulation, on your language skills in explaining what actually is cool about your paper, and so on and so forth. Two other tips, and they are really trivial in some sense, but I think they really pay off if you follow them. One is, have a look at other papers in SDR. I just told you 38th year. So there are quite some papers that you could look at. And unfortunately, also, I see papers I'm pretty sure authors had never looked at other papers in SDR. So please do have a look for the level of contribution of quality you would include, and for how that formally looks like such a paper. And of course, also whether you can make a connection to earlier research. And the last point here is, put some effort, put some investment, spend some time on the submission process. So this is kind of, this is a web application. If you, at least if you're a first-time author, you have to put in some data about you, but also you have to put in some data about the paper. You should provide a letter to the editor, really highlighting in 1 or 2 sentences what this is about and why it is cool. Pay attention that you upload all the stuff that's needed to understand your paper. So the model or simulation runs or any statistical analysis or whatever. I mean, just make sure all this is uploaded. Suggest reviewers that are interested and knowledgeable about what you have written about. So there are many things you could do to actually simplify our lives in some sense, but also to make this a stronger submission. So please spend some time on it. Don't hurry in the very last step. Usually it doesn't matter if your paper is submitted 1 day late. We hardly have any deadlines just for special issues. We do have some, but for all the rest, we don't have any deadline. So usually, writing a good paper takes weeks or months, and then it doesn't matter if you spend 1 more day really filling out everything and paying attention to providing the best possible submission at all. And with that, I think I want to make a stop. Please do remember, System Dynamics Review is your journal if you are a system dynamicist. It's your journal. So I'm really looking forward to any questions, comments, ideas, or commitments. So maybe there's somebody who's going to say, I will submit tomorrow. Yes, you convinced me. That would be fantastic. But even if not, please do ask questions or offer comments if you have some. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreas. We do have a lot of questions in the poll everywhere. And if you haven't submitted yours yet, you still have time to do it. You can also upvote and downvote the questions. So go to the link in the chat and send your questions. I'm going to share my screen and go through some of those. There is one top question, Andreas, that someone asked, do you have any tips for qualitative model papers?
Well, I think everything I said is fitting qualitative as well as quantitative papers. So I don't think there really are specific tips for qualitative papers, but qualitative. So I'm really open to receiving more qualitative papers. Let's make this very clear, but also let's make very clear that qualitative papers doesn't mean lower quality. Well, there's some confusion with the wording now, but I guess you know what I mean. So also qualitative model papers should be rigorous, should be very clearly describe what you have done, why you have done it, what are the outcomes, why are the outcomes interesting, and so on and so forth. So qualitative modeling papers is not another word for saying I didn't have enough time or I worked sloppily. No, okay, that I want to make clear. But there's no reason to not submit qualitative modeling papers. I hope that answered it.
This question, you might need help to respond. It's also related to the conference, but I like to respond to this one. If I'm intending to submit a research paper to the upcoming conference, but also considering to publish in the System Dynamics Review, maybe 1-2 months later, and with a few improvements, what is the recommended procedure? And if you need help to respond to this, Andreas, Raquel is here. I think she can help and Sarah also.
Yeah, let me just start. So if you submit the paper to the conference now for basically being accepted to present it at a conference, that is not a problem, okay? Because by that you don't publish the paper. The more critical point is after the conference, when you will be asked what you want to put in the conference document. You know, it's called, how's it called? What's the exact name?
Conference record.
Conference record. What do you want to put? Thank you, Raquel. What do you want to put in the conference record? And there, I wouldn't put exactly the same thing in that you want to submit to SDR. So if you want to, and that's actually the same for all journals, that they nowadays become a bit critical about this issue. So because once you submit it to the conference record, it's officially published, and then you cannot publish it again. So after the conference, make sure you only submit an abbreviated version or even just an extended abstract or something for the conference record. Maybe Raquel, if you want to add to that, please.
Yeah, sure. So people will have the option to put in the record what they want depending on the type of research that they actually submitted. So if it was a full paper, you can change this for the conference record.
And I would just add that that's if it's accepted as a poster or above.
Thanks, Andreas.
So I guess it's clear. Huh? So for now, for being accepted to the conference, no issue at all. Be careful then about the conference record.
Thanks, Raquel and Sarah. These things. The next one is, can the submitted paper only include causal loop diagram and be considered for publication? Yes, yeah, I think this is related also for the first question you answered, maybe briefly.
Well, in principle, yes, of course, yes. But you know, again, you need to tell us very clearly why this is something new, how you help somebody with that, or how we can understand something better with this causal loop diagram, how you would secure the validity. So where does it come from? And obviously, it's not a good argument if you just say, you know, this is what I came up with. I think this is the way it is. So, you know, it still needs rigor in documenting and describing and explaining what this is about and why it is interesting, not only to you, but also to the rest of the world.
All right, next one that we have here, saying that in the past, the system dynamics reviews seemed less interested in practitioner perspectives, insisting on well-researched and citation-rich submissions. Has that changed, Andreas?
Well, first of all, I would question a little bit the assumption here. But anyways, let me start by saying we are interested in practitioner perspectives. We are interested, it's already in the very first, you know, sentence that I showed you, in applications in various domains. But again, you need to make sure. I mean, the thing, and this is, sorry, I need to talk a little bit more about this, because I'm getting the question very often. And I think this not only relates to practitioner perspectives, but also to many other papers, that system dynamics is such a powerful methodology. And it's really so, in some sense, mind-blowing that we, including myself, we often think, oh my God, this is great. I have found out something, you know, this is so fantastic. This is the first time I really understand this, what's going on here. And system dynamics helped me, and everybody should use system dynamics. Again, unfortunately, this is not a good motivation and not a good reason to have it published, because there might be a lot of other people that already knew it. And it's just you that change your perspective. And this is a little bit similar with those practitioner works, sometimes at least, that just saying, okay, there's my company. Not sure if it's yours, but there's the company, and we drew this diagram, and now we know better, and we are all happy. That is a little bit weak. We need some more flesh to that. Okay, so what exactly did it change in your company? Why did it work? Did it really work, or were you just happy to talk to each other? And you know, these are the things. So yeah, are we insisting on this being well researched? In some sense, yes. But obviously, this is now a matter of degree. What you understand by well researched, citation rich. I wouldn't say. Really, there's nobody really counting citations in your paper. But sometimes it's obvious that some are missing, and then we usually tell you, I haven't experienced a paper that was rejected just because of that. Okay, just because there were not enough citations or there was some missing. Usually there are other more major issues with that. So I would say it hasn't changed because it always hasn't been like that. But if you experienced it that way, I'm happy to sympathize with that point. I think there's still a good chance, there's still interest by the editorial team to publish practitioner perspectives, and why not running these informally with me, and then I give you a very quick, maybe very short but very quick answer if I think there is a chance or not, as long as you don't interpret this as being, if I say informally yes, that it will be published eventually. No, I'm not saying. I'm just, run it by me informally, and I tell you whether it would make sense to submit it. But the outcome of that process is still not guaranteed. I hope that somehow answers the question. Sorry for being a bit long here.
I think you answered this in your presentation, Andreas, but maybe just for the record here, how long would it take it to publish a journal, publish an article in the SDR?
Yeah, I reported on the average times, and I told you that they are a bit skewed and biased by the many papers that are rejected. So if we look at papers that finally got published, I think realistically, and again, that matters now. So notes and insights papers sometimes are pretty fast. 3 months is pretty fast in academic publishing. For main articles, usually this takes a bit longer, but also there we have papers maybe starting by half a year. So maybe starting from half a year. So I think it's pretty hard to be faster than half a year, and this is not related to us being lazy. It's, it just takes time. It needs to be sent to the reviewers. Then it needs to be summarized by the editor, sent back to the authors. They need to revise it. They need to submit it again. It's sent to review. So that just takes time running through these cycles that I described a few times. So I don't think you can do it faster than half.
Thanks, Andreas. We are approaching our ending time. I'll ask Andreas to respond to a few more questions and go a little bit over time more than we expected. But people who are leaving now and have to go, there's a link in the chat. I would love to get your feedback about this webinar. Okay, so get the link to send us some feedback before you leave. You also get the link through your email. So just moving on to the next question. It's also related to practitioner. I've been a practitioner of system dynamics in supply chain management for a few years, and modeled many inventory and replenishment policies, but I think it's hard to propose a brand new methodology in terms of academical development. What would be the criteria in terms of publications, and in his view, in your view, probably, Andreas?
You don't need to propose a brand new methodology. You could, but this is by far the most difficult way you could try to publish a paper here. But I mean, if you work with different, if you have modeled different policies, what did you learn that people in supply chain management didn't know? And if you can make a clear case about that, can clearly answer this question, I think we have a good basis for a publication. So is there something that you, by applying system dynamics to this field, found out that others in the field just simply didn't know because they didn't use system dynamics?
Thanks, Andreas. I see some people asking a few questions about the submissions for the conference and other non-SDR related questions. I see that Rebecca tried to answer a few ones, so you can check in the chat if your question was answered by Rebecca there. Andreas, I'm gonna let you pick maybe 2 or 3 questions from this list here. Yeah. Those at the top are the most important ones. You just answered this.
Yes.
You answered this one also.
The next one is about a conference.
Yeah.
We can remove that one. If a paper is rejected, yeah, if a paper is rejected and we decide to do a major revision on our own, can we attempt resubmitting? Yeah, of course. But this is then a new submission, so it's treated like any other paper that has never been with us before, let's say. So it's officially not a resubmission, but a new submission. Okay, but yeah, of course, this is you can do this, and this is why we try to give you constructive feedback on things you can change and improve on, even if we reject it for now. That doesn't mean it's rejected for the rest of the times.
Could I ask a clarifying on that? So if you did, would you want to make sure to refer to the previous one by manuscript number in your cover letter?
Exactly. I think there is even, now that you say that, I think there's even in the form, in the submission system, there is even something where you can basically give this information. So you could do that, but and it wouldn't hurt actually, because sometimes it's easier than for us. But I mean, formally it's a new submission, and we should start all over without having any biases, so to say. Thanks, Sarah. When you say it needs to be about SD, it doesn't mean it needs to be a methods paper. No, of course not. It can be an applied paper, very important. This is, again, this was on the very first slide, second sentence. Applications in basically any field, that deals with dynamic phenomena, where system dynamics can be used. So it's not only about improving the methodology. It can be about improving knowledge in certain domains. But anyway, let me also just add that obviously it also would make then a lot of sense if you would additionally send a corresponding paper then to a journal in that field. Okay, so in the best world, you could actually have two publications, one more concentrating on the technique, on the method, but also how it helps, and the other one on the application.
Maybe let's answer like two more questions, Andreas, that we're over time. I see maybe you just answered this one. We answered this on average. For papers accepted, can we also submit it to another journal as well as in an unrelated field?
Not the exact same paper, okay? But you can write another paper about the same research project or about the same application project, but you cannot just take the same thing and submit it somewhere else. That doesn't work. They will immediately tell you that self-plagiarism. Or also the other way around. If you already have a paper somewhere else, you cannot submit exactly the same to us, but with a little bit of extra effort, maybe you can recast it to better fit either in this other field, or if you take the other route, to recast it for system dynamics
review. Do you want to pick any specific question here, Andreas? Maybe just eyeball a little bit here.
We don't have a template, no, sorry. But again, it's not so important, at least for your first submission. No, we once worked on it, but then it didn't really end well. So no, we don't have one. Is there any greatest example? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, okay. We could do this maybe, but maybe you could also check yourself. Is there a word? No, template. Sorry, I have been asked for nature, whether it is a method or a tool. Oh, this is okay. Okay. So the last one here. The other ones.
This one I have been asked.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, this is an ongoing discussion, and we will never finish if we start talking about this.
Yeah.
And you don't need to know the answer for submitting a paper, for STR.
Maybe this, I think Rebecca answered this. What is the STR publication frequency?
Every quarter, so 4 times a year.
Perfect. Well, I think we're just over time, Andreas, unless there's any specific thoughts that you want to finalize. I think we're good here. I'm just going to ask.
Thank you very much, Fernando, for steering this. Let me just say, please do submit papers, okay? If I sounded negative now and then, this was just to make you aware of potential mistakes before you do so, okay? Please do submit papers. We are really happy to look at these. I would really like to increase the number, but also, of course, the contribution and quality of the stuff we have in System Dynamics Review. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you for doing this. This was a great webinar. The recording will be available very soon on the usual page of the seminar series. So it's systemdynamics.org/seminar series. You can find all the recordings there. And I'm also going to remind you that we have another free webinar coming up soon. So it's on March 23rd with Kenneth Cooper, which is a free webinar because Cooper Associations sponsored this webinar. So the dark side of projects, delays, disruptions, and disputes. Ken is going to explain how to use system dynamics modeling to resolve high-stakes legal cases. And don't forget to submit your work for this conference this year until not this Friday, next Friday, March 18th. Rebecca's here. Do you have any final words, Rebecca? Maybe just say hello to people there.
Could I add?
Hi. Yep. Hi, everyone. Just wanted to say thank you for joining us. If you have any other ideas about things you would want to hear about, Fernando's doing a great job pulling together interesting things for this seminar series, and we really appreciate having Andreas here to let us know how to publish in the journal. We definitely would like to see your submissions for this and for the conference. So thank you, everyone, for coming.
And Sarah, please.
May I? I don't want to go after.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just going to add audibly to what I commented in the chat is that we were talking about what's included in the conference record, but I want to remind everybody that since the conference is hybrid, we'll have an online program, and there will be materials in that are not part of the permanent record. So if you do have a paper that is submitted, you can know that as of June 15th, it will be available to other attendees because we're going to keep it open through the month of September. So just to make sure that's clear.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you once again, Andreas. This was a great seminar. Again, the recording will be available very soon. I'll send an email for you all with the link. Thank you so much.
Thank you.